Government drama llama ding dong talking about rural communities. Most people that live in rural areas of the United States or have lived in those areas are aware that sometimes medical care is DIY. Also, in a lot of rural communities, there may only be one hospital in a county, and the only reason they're still in business, quote unquote, is because of Medicare and Medicaid. With this bill that takes money away from Medicare and Medicaid, it's going to get a lot worse. I don't think some people are fully aware of just how remote some of these areas are. In no particular order, let's just start with Missouri City, mostly because my partner and I went up to visit his family recently, and on the way, he wanted to stop through Missouri City. In 2020, the population was 217 people, and apparently it's considered part of the Kansas City metropolitan area, which, I guess, but if you want to go anywhere like Liberty or anything like that, it's at least a 20 to 30-minute drive on a 2-lane highway. Part of the reason that Missouri City had business is because a highway ran through there. Well, apparently due to severe flooding, they moved the highway a little bit north, I think of it. Because of the new highway that got built, Missouri City had fewer and fewer people drive through, and as a result, less business. This is actually pretty common in states like Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. Newer and safer highways often leave a lot of these small towns in the dust. As a result, people often leave these small towns, so then the population that is left tends to age. When I checked today, 3/4 of Missouri City is over the age of 40. When I drove through this area with my partner recently, the only thing we saw in town was a post office with limited hours, like a car repair shop, and I think there was a church, but I really wasn't sure if it was open or not. There also used to be a road that ran along the Missouri River, but it is no longer maintained. If you need groceries, if you need gas, if you need medical attention, it's going to be at least a 20 to 30-minute drive in good weather with no flooding, no tornadoes. So let's move over to Kansas and look at another one, this time Altoona. I used to have family that I would go visit down in southeast Kansas. They are no longer there, so I don't see this part of the state anymore. As of 2020, the population is 354. It's also a sundown town, so no surprise there. And in Altoona, the median age is about 40 years old, which is higher than the state median age. Last I checked, Altoona does have a few things like a library or a post office, and for now there's a hospital, but I do know that a lot of that does depend on Medicare and Medicaid. If you wanted gas or groceries, it was usually more expensive in town. Neodesha was about the same. Fredonia was slightly cheaper, or if you went just a little bit further, sometimes Chanute had better deals. Regardless of which one you went to, it was going to be about a 20 to 30-minute drive, and of course there's no public transportation. That distance to the next grocery store, gas station, hospital also gets worse when towns start to die out or fade away. My grandparents used to have a farm in Rest, Kansas. However, this is no longer on the map. If you look at this image here, Rest is no longer on the map. It used to be up here on Highway 75. If we zoom out a little bit, that would have been between Buffalo and Altoona. Of course, there's places that have kind of always been smaller towns and always been a little remote, such as Nella, Arkansas. What I've often noticed is places like this are called an unincorporated community, and about the most I could find as far as the number of people that live here is that it was under 50. It's also not unusual for places like this to get access to electricity or plumbing later than other areas. One of the people I went to college with was from rural Montana, and they didn't have indoor plumbing in her house until I think she was like 16 or 17, so that would have been about like 2000, 2001. Nella didn't really grow to be that big, and it also didn't help when you had loss of jobs within the timber industry and growth of the nearby Waldron. And for reference, Waldron is not really that close. If you need medical attention, that's like a 45-minute drive to the nearest hospital. This is again assuming good driving conditions, there's no obstructions in the road, there's no flooding. Another thing with remote hospitals is they usually aren't just there for emergencies, they're there for just general medical care. When they start cutting funds to these hospitals and they start to close, it's going to be that much harder for people in remote areas to get the medical attention that they need. Not even just for emergencies, just in general. We're also going to have to figure out how to deal with the aging population, because one of the things that Medicare and Medicaid sometimes provide is the transportation to and from that medical care. And if you thought access to hospitals was bad, wait till you look up access to assisted living facilities. Another thing I'm going to throw in is prescriptions. Sometimes you can get them by mail, sometimes you can't. In some of these rural areas, they don't necessarily have mail that goes to their house, but they'll usually have a P.O. box, which means they have to go to the post office to get that. The post office is already struggling as it is, so when we have those in remote areas, limited hours mean limited access. And before someone says it, no, we can't all just go move to a bigger city. Some people don't want to move any closer to cities, and those that want to move may not have the resources to do so. So have fun with that. Llama out.